Hi everyone, welcome to tonight's Facebook and Instagram Live. I'm Christine Daal from Fashion Angel Warrior, and tonight is episode 115. We are going to discuss the 5 do's and don'ts of starting a fashion business. Hey JC, how are you? Thanks so much for joining everyone. Swimwear or SHH Swimwear, not sure which way it is. Peter, hi, how are you? So as always, don't forget to give me your hearts, give me your thumbs up. I love it, guys. Your comments, they're like oxygen to me. I need it. So definitely converse with me, especially on Facebook. Tell me, say hi in the comments because I can't always see the comments right away. I want to make sure I can actually see them right now. As always, don't forget to share this video. Super easy on Facebook. All you have to do is tap those 3 little dots, copy link, share it in your personal profile. On Instagram, tap that little paper airplane icon and send this to 5 of your friends right now so that they can tune in and get all of this valuable information. Hey, Doreen, how are you? Oh, let me get us set up on this too. Hold on one second. Okay, so as always, at the end of this broadcast on Instagram, this will be deleted. However, you can hop on over to our Facebook group, The Fearless Fashionpreneur, where you can watch all 100 episodes for free. That's literally over 50 hours worth of free information, all inside our Fearless Fashionpreneur Facebook group. Hi, how are you? Okay, so 5 do's and don'ts of starting a fashion business. So today we're going to discuss whether writing a business plan is a do or a don't. We're going to talk about the one thing you can change in order to get results, why knockoffs and what to do about them, my 5 top do's and don'ts for starting a business, and so much more. So I hope you are super excited. So let's start with the do's. Let's start with the positive side of things first. So number 1, one of my top do's, and you guys who have been watching me and following me for a while know that I constantly preach this. Build a following, either before or at the same time you are building your fashion line. And there are a number of reasons for this, but I want you just to think about this for 1 second. Did the Kardashians become famous first, or did they start a fashion line, beauty line, modeling career, etc.? They became famous first, right? Because once you're famous, you can do anything you want. You already have the following, you already have the fan base. People will buy anything. Kim Kardashian could come up with a donut line that had a big fat K on it and everyone would go out tomorrow and buy it. I would not buy it, but I'm sure tons of people would go out to buy the Kim Kardashian donut, right? So it's the same thing with your fashion business. You need to become quote unquote famous first. And it's not you necessarily, but it's your brand needs to become famous, right? You need to have fans. You need to have a tribe. You need to have a following. It is the number 1 thing that you can do that is not going to cost you anything except your time. Yes, you can spend money and hire and outsource a lot of this, but you can do a lot of it yourself in the very beginning. It's very DIY. And in my opinion, there is no point spending all this time and energy building your fashion line, perfecting your samples, getting a beautiful website going if you have no one to sell it to. It is the biggest thing that is going to make you want to quit. If you launch that website, hit launch, and you get crickets and you don't get any sales, you're going to feel horrible. You're going to feel terrible about yourself, and it's not going to motivate you to continue with your fashion line, and you are more likely to quit than continue going on. So please, please build your following at the same time or before. I recommend before. Yes, amen, sister. I recommend before building your fashion line, okay? Super important, especially if you're doing direct-to-consumer sales, which pretty much everyone these days is doing e-commerce sales. Okay, number 2, my second do is pre-sale. You guys have heard me preach it all the time. I am always preaching pre-sale, pre-sale, pre-sale. You don't want to have a ton of inventory. Inventory is going to tie up all of your money. It's also not environmentally friendly. So if you're looking to do any kind of sustainable fashion line, you are not going to want to overproduce or have a ton of inventory, right? I met a girl the other day, probably a couple weeks ago. She was literally ready to drop $30,000 on her production. That's all the money that she had. And I asked her, okay, great. How many pieces have you sold? And she said 0. She was ready to drop $30,000, the price of a car, on a fashion line that she had sold Nothing. Nada. Zip. Zilch. Zero. She had not sold anything from that fashion line. And honestly, I didn't even like the prints, and I'm really big time on prints. You can see the dress I have on right here. I actually designed this print, FYI. Sidetrack. But she hadn't sold anything. So I'm like, why are you going to drop $30,000 on a fashion line that you haven't proven can actually be sold to anyone? No one has proven that they told you they like it enough to give you money to buy one. Really, really important. Now, obviously back in the day, the way things used to be, pre-e-commerce, pre-direct-to-consumer sales, everyone sold to retailers, right? And retailers would put in a purchase order up front, right? For a huge number of units that they would put in all their doors, hopefully. And you would produce based on what's purchased. It is the same model now, except that you have the control. You don't have to wait for a retailer to put in a huge order. You can build that crowd, and then once you have that crowd, go to that crowd, ask them for their money up front so that you can then produce your production. And don't think that people are not willing to wait to get product. I'm working with a client right now. She's doing children's wear. Her customers are like this crazy diehard cult following that she's built up, and they always wait 6 to 8 weeks to get their product, and they have no problem waiting because she has trained them that way, and she's done it that way for probably over the last 4 years of her business, and she makes millions of dollars. So it works. People are willing to wait if you give them a reason to wait for something, right? If you make it good enough that they're willing to wait. And we definitely talk about more about this whole idea of why you need a proof of concept and how to do your pre-sale model inside our Fashion Startup Intensive Module 2, or you can always take the online course individually, which is Market Research Made Easy. So there's literally 5 things you can do right now to know whether your product will sell before you go wasting all your time and all your energy and all your money on production, okay? All right, moving right along. Number 3, is this helpful for you guys? I want to hear in the comments. Are you enjoying this? Is it helpful? Are you getting a lot out of this? Let me know in the comments, okay? The comments are a little delayed on my end, so it takes me a little while. Okay, number 3, work on your mindset. This is my third do. So does anyone know the one thing that you can change in order to get a different result? I want to hear from you guys. Type in the comments. I'm going to give you a minute because the comments are delayed on my end. What is the number one thing you can change in order to get a different result? What do you need to change in order to change your results? Yes, Nico says great refresher. Yes. Anyone want to take a guess? There's a lot of you on. Come on. Mentality, Julie says. Okay, you're close. What is the number one thing you can change in order to change your results? Come on, guys. Don't be shy. Strategy. Good one, Nico. Not where I was going, but that's something that is useful. Okay, I'm going to give it to you. It's your thoughts, which goes along with mindset. Attitude, Nancy says. Yes. Thoughts. Your results always start with what's in your head. Your thoughts lead to your feelings, which lead to your actions, which equal your results. If you want to change the result, you have to change the thought. It's that simple. And trust me, it's not simple, but the formula is simple, right? So we talk about this a lot in Facebook Live episode number 9 on overcoming fear. So definitely go back and watch that because your mindset is so, so important when starting a fashion business. Too often I find that people have a ton of fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown, fear of I don't know what I'm called to do, fear of what type of line should I be creating right now, what type of business should I be creating, or they have poor self-esteem, right? There's only really 3 reasons I've found that most people, when they come to me, want one-on-one coaching, which is also why we're no longer doing one-on-one coaching because it is usually these 3 reasons. Because usually people just want either a therapist, they want someone that they can cry to, they want a scapegoat, somebody that they can blame for all of their problems, or they want a babysitter. And I am not either of those three things. I am not going to be your therapist. I am not trained to be a therapist. I am definitely not going to be your scapegoat and let you blame me for all of your problems that you created in your life. And I'm definitely not going to be your babysitter, because you are a grown adult. If you are over the age of 18, I consider you to be a grown adult. I've never worked with anyone under the age of 18. So you are a grown adult. You don't need me to hold your hand and coddle you. If I give you homework, you should do it. Plain and simple. I shouldn't have to call you, email you, text you 5,000 times to get you to do your homework, right? And this is typically why people want one-on-one coaching, and why one-on-one coaching is not effective. We talk about that in a whole other Facebook Live. I forget exactly the episode, but it's all about accountability, why the accountability of many is better than the accountability of one. Hence, this is why we are switching to a group coaching model going forward. But really, really important that you have the right mindset, that you have that, what I call emotional intelligence, the EQ, which I think is way more important than the IQ. You could be the dumbest person in the world to me, but if you have a really high EQ, you have a really high emotional intelligence, you can really get far in life. You need to have like that thick skin. That's what the emotional intelligence really is. And if you think about it, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, that's basically the definition of insanity, right? So if you want something to change, you need to first be able to look at yourself and accept that possibly you are the problem, and not necessarily you yourself, but your thoughts. What is going on in that mind of yours, and how can we fix this in order to get a different result? Yes, Julie says I have a therapist. Okay, good. I recommend having a therapist, by the way. It's very, very useful. The more that you can find out about yourself, the better off you're going to be in life in general. Because not only will it help you in business, it's going to help you with your personal relationships, etc. You'll understand more about why certain things tick you off, what are triggers for you, all of that great stuff. So I'm a big proponent of being a therapist. I am just not a therapist, okay? All right, number 4, the fourth thing that I recommend that you do when starting a fashion business is be willing to fail and take risks. Super, super important. We have an entire Facebook Live dedicated to this. It's episode 20, Why Failure is Necessary for Success. And one of my favorite quotes of all time by J.K. Rowling is, "It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you failed by default." You can't be so cautious that you are afraid to take risks. Being a business owner is all about taking risks. Now, I believe in taking calculated risks, not just willy-nilly, whatever I feel like doing kind of risks. And if you're a Christian like me, definitely speak to God and make sure you are in His will and you're doing what He wants you to do. But it's impossible to be a business owner without being willing to take some kind of risk and not being willing to fail. And if you shift your mindset, which we just talked about failure, to look at it as a positive thing instead of a negative thing, you will get to success way faster. Too many business owners fail and then they beat themselves up. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have hired this person. I shouldn't have done that, right? You beat yourself up. You play this broken record again in your mind, all these negative thoughts going on, right? And it's only going to hold you back. Whereas if you look at the failure as a set up instead of a set back, it's going to help you get so much further in your business. And I'd rather fail 100 times because I know I'm never going to quit and I will eventually succeed. So if you look at it as a positive, it's always going to be better, okay? And there's plenty of examples, just a couple of them. Thomas Edison, obviously it took him 10,000 times to perfect the light bulb, right? I'm sure if he had quit at 9,999, it would have taken us a much longer time, I should say, to develop the light bulb and electricity, right? Starbucks, the founder of Starbucks was turned down 217 out of the 242 investors that he initially talked to. That's a lot of no's. Can you imagine taking 217 no's from people? And look at where Starbucks is today. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. So there's plenty of examples of people that are super successful that have faced failure. So again, look at it as a set up, not a set back. And number 5, my top 5 do for starting a fashion business is start before you are ready. Don't fall into the what I call analysis paralysis. And I'm a very analytical person, so I fall into this trap very, very often. And so it's really important that you push past that if you are this type of person and start before you're ready. Don't think that you have to have everything, that you have to know every single little thing. Yes, you need some knowledge. Yes, you need to know where to start, right? But you don't have to have everything figured out, the entire picture, in order to just get started. And sometimes just getting started is going to motivate you. Taking one small step is going to motivate you to take another small step, to take another small step, to take another small step. And pretty soon all those small steps are going to lead to bigger steps, right? And so as my one of my favorite mentors always says, Marie Forleo, start before you are ready. Okay, so those are the top 5 do's. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Let me know in the comments if you are. And let me know what you're getting out of this, because I always like to get the feedback so that I know what we should talk about on future Facebook Lives. So definitely let me know. Yes, Tam and Sunny, failure strengthens success, learn from it. Agreed. Preach it. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's talk about the 5 don'ts. And these are my personal opinion, 5 don'ts. Take it with a grain of salt. Apply what you want to apply for your business and throw the rest out if it doesn't sit well with you, is what I always say. But if something doesn't apply, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, meaning don't negate everything that I'm saying because one thing doesn't apply to your business, okay? So my top 5 don'ts. Number 1, don't write a formal business plan. Now, I know this is going to sound a little crazy. Most people think, okay, I need a formal business plan, right? Somewhere along the way, we were somehow all conditioned to think that, okay, if you're starting a business, you need a business plan. And while yes, I agree that you need to do the work involved in the things that go into a business plan, and this is what we teach in a lot of our courses, you don't actually need to put it together in a formal business plan unless you plan to pitch to investors. And just keep in mind for fashion brands, if you are planning to pitch to investors, your product has got to be some kind of crazy tech integrated, outside of the box. You're developing a whole new fabric. If you're just doing some kind of ready-to-wear women's line, no one is going to invest in your company until you have proven that you can get sales and that you are profitable. So again, you still don't need a formal business plan for that. And on top of that, most investors don't even need a formal business plan anymore. They just need something that shows that you've done the work. Airbnb, Uber, they never actually wrote formal business plans. They just did PowerPoint presentations. You can do a one-pager business plan. So we don't teach how to write formal business plans. I teach what goes into the business plan, but I don't teach how to put it together in a formal business plan because A, there's so many different kinds. B, I don't think it's necessary for 99.9% of you because you're not going to be going after investors. And C, it's a waste of time. So I like to teach what you absolutely need to do because your time is limited, your resources is limited, your money is limited, right? Your energy is limited. So we need to get to the fastest way to success as possible. So I'll give you a quick example. When I wanted to start my own fashion line the first time around, which was like way back in 2011, I decided I was going to start this cocktail line of dresses. I have a dress background, so this was very natural to me. And I wanted to repurpose these vintage elements. And so I decided I need a formal business plan. And so I spent every single Saturday, I borrowed my friend's office because at the time I was living in Manhattan on the Upper East Side in a very small 1-bedroom apartment. And I knew I just needed to get outside of my apartment, clear my head, dedicate the time, act like I was at the office, and get this business plan done. And I literally did this for every Saturday for 4 to 5 months, like clockwork. I didn't take a Saturday off, and I completely burnt out from writing this business plan that I never ended up doing anything with the fashion line because I had spent so much time with the business plan. As opposed to fast forward a couple years later when I finally did start my own fashion line, which was Multi Chic by Christine D'Angelo, my maiden name. And I had no business plan. I got that line done in 4 months. Literally the time it took me to try to write a formal business plan, the 4 to 5 months prior, I finished an entire line, start to finish. I had samples, production, got it into stores, and sold over 100 units within 4 months of time, which is super, super fast. I do not recommend that you go that fast, especially if you want to be successful. But I happened to be successful. I was profitable in my first month in business. We sold out of our first retail store we sold to. We sold over 100 units of one style. My fashion line was one style. That's it. I didn't have a huge line. One style in a million colors and a million prints, and it sold like crazy. So you don't need a formal business plan. Get out of the analysis paralysis, right? And just do it. Okay, that's my top one. Number 2, and if you guys are thinking about getting investors, type in the comments. I would love to hear how many of you are actually thinking about going the route of getting investors. I would love to know how many of you are on here. Okay. Right brand clothing. I need the checklist from this group. I'm not sure what you're saying, but take good notes, and if you need to watch the replay, head over to the Fearless Fashionpreneur group, and you can always watch the replay of what we're talking about. Okay. Julie learned so far, grow your social media, pre-sell, work on your thoughts, work through fear. Yes, love it. Okay, you are A+ student. Okay, number 2, the second don't. Don't try to figure this out on your own, okay? It is a very prideful thing. And trust me, we are all filled with pride, myself included. And a lot of us think, oh, I went to fashion school. Oh, I worked in the industry for 12 years. I can do this. I can do it on my own. I don't need anyone to teach me. I know exactly what I'm doing. And sure, you might make it so far on your own, or you might be able to Google some of these things, right? But only if you go down that route if you really want to waste a ton of time, energy, and money, which I don't know about you, but I don't like wasting any of those 3 things. Those are 3 of my most valuable resources, especially when you're a mompreneur like me. Energy is probably the number 1 in time. But it's super, super important. So I'll give you a good example. I met a girl the other day. She was just getting started out. She had paid $1,800 to have sketches and a tech pack done for her collection. And when I asked her why she paid $1,800 to have sketches and a tech pack done, she said, oh, because I was following the steps I read online. And I'm like, what steps? Where did you read this? Where did you get this information from? Who told you that getting sketches and a tech pack was the first step you needed to do? And so come to find out, she had watched a YouTube video by who knows who. And this is what this person said was the very first step to starting a fashion line was to get sketches and a tech pack. Meanwhile, this is not my opinion on the first step to starting a fashion line, and definitely not my opinion for her specifically, because her total budget for starting her line was only $5,000. So she had just spent 36% of her budget on sketches and a tech pack without doing anything else, no market research, no competitive analysis, nothing to make sure that maybe her idea was even going to be good before spending this $1,800 on sketches and a tech pack. And at the end of the day, she probably didn't even need those sketches and tech pack to get started. So whatever video she watched, I don't know who was teaching her these steps, but these are not my steps. And in my opinion, they're not the right steps. And this is one of the reasons and one of the benefits of having a coach. You need someone who's honest. You need someone who is unbiased, meaning they're not a pattern maker or a manufacturer that's giving you advice, because guess what? Pattern makers make money by making patterns, and manufacturers make money by getting you to make production. So of course they are going to gear you down that road. And I just had this conversation today with a lovely woman about why she made a sample when I said you could easily have come on our tour, spent $300 to come on a manufacturing tour, asked me this question, and I would have told you in a matter of an hour, rather than you going down the route of making a sample just to find out what your manufacturing cost would have been. So you need someone who's unbiased, that you can totally trust, and someone that's really going to give you the big picture strategy and a system. System stands for save yourself some time, energy, and money. Super, super important. So, and also keep in mind that the steps to starting a fashion line are not the same for everyone, and this is where it gets really tricky, and there's a lot of factors to consider, and your budget does come into play. So I highly recommend that you all go back and watch Facebook Live episode 32, why you need a system, because anyone can Google anything. You can easily Google a strategy tip on how to grow your Instagram following. And you can easily Google, how do I start a fashion clothing line, right? But who's giving you the advice, number one? Are they credible? Have they done it? Do they have success stories to back it up, etc., right? We have all 5-star Google reviews. You should go check them out, by the way. And if you're just getting tidbits of information here, a tactic here, a tip here, a trick here, you're not going to know how to put it all together in a proper system that is literally going to spell out what you should do, A to Z, step by step, exactly what you need to do to start your fashion line for you in your situation with your budget, okay? Very, very important that you understand this, okay? So please don't waste your time and money. Trust me, it's not worth it. Okay, number 3. Third thing you don't need to do, I should say, when starting a fashion business is worry about knockoffs. So many people come to me, oh, I have this great idea, but I don't want to tell anyone. I need to get a patent first. First of all, it's nearly impossible to get a design patent, which is pretty much patenting the style or the design of your garment, right? Pretty impossible to get one of those because all someone has to do is change 7 things of a garment to be considered a brand new garment. And those 7 things can be very, very small things. Meaning if the thread is pink, they can change it to black. If you have 7 stitches per inch, they can change it to 10 stitches per inch. If you have 5 buttons, they change it to 4 buttons. If you have a cuff, they take off the cuff. Literally, you could have 2 items side by side that look identical, and yet if there are 7 small things that are different, you will not win your lawsuit against that person, okay? So number 1, getting a design patent is super impossible. Number 2, you could get a utility patent. However, there has to be some kind of utility or function along with your line. And trust me, I know this because I went down this route with my own fashion line, which is why I have experience with this. It's not worth it. The amount of money that you're going to spend to get the patent initially can cost you anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. I even got quotes for $30,000 or $40,000 just to obtain the patent. And then on top of that, if anyone does knock you off, now you have to go after them, right? And so are you going to spend all your time and energy looking for people that are knocking you off and going after them and filing lawsuits and spending more time and more money, because that's going to cost you way more to now hire a lawyer to litigate all of these things, right? Or are you just going to go about your business and design more stuff? If you were obviously smart enough to design the first garment and take it like a compliment, just like Coco Chanel always said, right? If somebody's going to knock you off, take it as a compliment. Your design was obviously good enough. It's selling good enough for someone else to think, we need to knock this off. Let them have it, and you move on to the next thing, right? If you were a good enough designer to come up with that first concept, just market it like crazy, sell it like crazy as fast as possible. Again, why having that following in the beginning is super, super important, because you'll be able to do that a lot faster, right, than if you don't have a following. And then move on to your next greatest idea, right? People used to knock me off all time in the industry. I had this one dress I designed. I used to do all these prom dresses, and I swear like 10 companies knocked it off. And we just moved on to the next thing, and it sold so well that I eventually moved to a different company and knocked myself off. So it's just the name of the game in fashion. You have to get over it. It's nearly impossible to stop. And unless you're going to spend all of your time and energy focused on people who are knocking you off, you're never going to be able to actually build your fashion line. So just come up with really great ideas, market and sell them like crazy, and move on to the next thing. Okay? Don't worry about people knocking you off. All right, number 4. Don't quit your job right away. I say this all the time. It is super, super important. And I definitely recommend going back and watching Facebook Live episode 85, where we talk about tricks for starting a business while working full time, because it's super important. I see so many people wanting to quit their job right away. Oh my gosh, I hate my job. All I want to do is start my fashion line. I've got a little bit of savings. I can do this. Then they quit their job, and then they blow through their savings super, super fast because they don't realize how quickly that savings will dwindle. And now they're stuck because their line isn't ready and producing and making a profit for them. And now they don't have a job. And especially if this happened to you during COVID, even harder for you to get a job right now, probably due to COVID, right? So keep your job for as long as possible. It's one of the regrets that I have from leaving my own job and starting my own fashion business. I wish that I'd stayed at my job longer. I was making a really good 6-figure salary. I could have easily taken $30,000 out of that salary that I was making and paid someone to do a bunch of things for me. Like if you've got a good job where you're making good money, or you barely work, a 40-hour work week, or you can get away with kind of like doing some stuff on the side while you're at your job for your business, right? Because you don't have to use that much time or that much brain power, right, to be able to do your job. You've got it made in the shade, okay? Now, if you have a crazy job, like I had super crazy jobs where I was working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, like nonstop, it was just a nightmare, then I recommend getting out of that type of job, maybe into another type of a job that's a little bit less stress, a little bit less hours, right? It's not gonna take up as much of your time so that you do have time to build your business. Because easily you could work a 40-hour work week at your job and work 40 hours in your business. That would be 80 hours a week. Trust me, it's doable. I've done it, so you can do it too. But if you're already working 80 hours a week at your job, there's no way you're putting in another 40, right? So if you're in that type of situation, then yes, I recommend leaving that job and getting a very easy job, right? Something that's simple, that's mundane, that's not gonna take up too much of your brain power to do. But otherwise, I recommend, in general, do not quit your job. Wait as long as possible before you start your you can start your fashion business, but don't leave your job right away, right? And definitely not before you're bringing in the type of income that you're making at your job. And we have an entire revenue calculator. I call it the AKA Quit Your Job Calculator as a bonus inside the Fashion Startup Intensive. So if you're an FSI student, go to your bonus module because it's in there. And it will calculate for you how much you need to be making in your business in order to replace whatever your salary is. It's a really, really cool tool. Okay. And number 5, last but not least, the 5th thing that I don't want you to do when starting a fashion business: less talk and more doing. There is way too much talking going on. I meet people all the time, all walks of life, doing all types of product. They're super excited. They have high hopes of all these things that are going to happen, and it's all talk. You have to take action. I literally talked to a girl the other day, and you might be watching, please don't be offended, but I literally met her a year ago at the Magic Show in February. She saw me speak, and she told me on the phone when I talked to her that a buyer came up to her and said, "Your idea is phenomenal. Get it, put it on product, and trust me, I can sell it for you. I will buy it, and I can sell it in my stores." And it was now a year later I was talking to her, and she had not done it. She had not done it. A buyer had literally told her, "Oh my gosh, I will pay. I will buy this. If you make it, I will buy it." And she had not done it. An entire year had gone by. So really, really important. Less talking, more doing. I'd rather have you take imperfect action. I'd rather have you take the wrong action. I'd rather have you go in the wrong direction, but at least take action, than not doing anything at all and just talking. And just talking about how good it's going to be, and this person who's going to invest in you, and this is going to happen, and you're going to get into this store, and you're going to get this influencer, and you've got so-and-so over here who's a celebrity who you know. Okay, great. Get it done. Start your line, sell it to that store, get it on that celebrity, start doing things, okay? And if you're a perfectionist, this is going to be really hard for you, but trust me, just move past the perfection, and I promise you will succeed. So I hope you guys liked this, my top 5 do's and don'ts of starting a fashion business. Let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway was. What is the one thing you learned? What is the one action step? This is what I would like to hear. What is the one action step you're going to take after we get off this call tonight or tomorrow? What is the one action step you're going to take? I don't care if it's the smallest thing, like sending out one email tomorrow. It can be the smallest action step, but what action step are you going to take now that you listened to this amazing Facebook Live? So as always, don't forget to go back and watch those previous Facebook Lives I mentioned, episode 9 on overcoming fear, Episode 20, why failure is necessary for success. Episode 32, why you need a system. And episode 85, tricks for starting a fashion business while working full-time. They are all inside our Facebook group, The Fearless Fashionpreneur. Sign up to join the group. It's an exclusive group. You do have to be admitted to be a member, but we'll admit you, don't worry. And that's it, guys. So a couple of announcements. We have our first ever, I'm super excited, our first ever international virtual manufacturing tour coming up on April 7th. All of our manufacturing tours up until this point have been domestic, meaning we primarily focus on USA made manufacturers. This is gonna be all international. So we're gonna visit vendors from Europe, Canada, Latin America, and China. So if you are interested in producing overseas, you A, don't wanna hop on a plane to go to all these places, B, wanna save yourself a lot of time, energy, and money, definitely sign up for our international virtual tour. I wouldn't be surprised if it sells out in like 2 weeks because we have a lot of previous tour attendees that like to take multiple tours. And since this is a new one, they probably will sign up for this. So super, super important that you sign up. You can go to internationalfashiontour.eventbrite.com. Yes, Diane, you are signed up for the one next week or 2 weeks. I forget. Next week. I'm losing track of what day it is. Next week, March 11th. And we are going to visit a Canadian manufacturer on that one as well. And then our next Facebook Live and last Facebook Live for at least a while is going to be in 2 weeks. It is going to be on the 3 social media mistakes you are making right now. Make sure that you attend. It's going to be the last one before I give birth to my beautiful little baby. So we're going to be taking a little bit of break as I prepare to have my second child and deal with a toddler and newborn at the same time. So we'll be taking a little bit of break. So definitely make sure you don't miss that Facebook Live. It's going to be awesome. And if you're an FSI student, you're going to have your last Facebook Live, at least for a while, on March 30th. We're going to do a live interview with my awesome trademark attorney. So if you've got any questions, definitely make sure you tune in for that. If you are a Fashion Startup Intensive student, it's going to be right inside your private mastermind group. And for anyone that would like to attend, we are going to do a little gender reveal right here on Facebook and Instagram on Saturday. So if you want to find out the gender of our wonderful little baby, tune in Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be really short. We'll probably only be on for like 20 minutes. So definitely tune in on Saturday. I would love to know what your guesses are. Do you think it's going to be a girl? Do you think it's going to be a boy? Let me know. And as always, don't forget to do whatever it takes. So I love you guys. Thanks for joining in. Don't forget to share this. It's going to be deleted on Instagram, so tap that paper airplane button and share it with 5 of your friends right now. And if you're on Facebook, just tap the little 3 dots, hit copy link, and you can paste this right to your bio, right to your personal page. So love you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.